Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this webinar. I'm excited about some of the things that we're going to be covering on this webinar. 7 proven ways to improve your Google Ads campaigns. And just a little bit about myself. Mike, and I work as a Google Ads specialist and PPC consultant. I've done so for many years. And I've worked with a wide range of clients, in the UK and globally, setting up and managing campaigns. And I'm also a Google partner. So, that's some of the work that I do on a day-by-day basis. And before we get started, I just want we're going to take a poll and just see, for me to get an idea of who is on the line with us and where you are with your Google Ads campaigns. And then we're just going to go into it. So here's the poll, and just answer that if you can, and then we'll move on to the next stage. Okay. Wow, that's okay. Just a few more. Yeah, that's about 50-50 of yes and no. Some people have run Google Ads campaign are running Google Ads campaigns, and some are not. And that's okay. It gives us an idea of I guess some of the things I'm going to be mentioning. And if you're not running any campaigns, I believe it will help you as well when you do start running campaigns or when you activate your campaigns and so forth. So, what we will do now, I'm going to share these 7 proven ways with you, and I'm going to be sharing my screen, so that will really give you an idea. And later, you can then watch the webinar. And if you just want to implement it in your campaigns, that will be great as well. And you can just follow through like that. So let me share my screen, and then we'll get started with the first one. Okay, so I mean, with Google Ads, there's many ways to improve campaigns, but the ones I'm going to share with you are some of the most important ones that I've seen over time, especially for search campaigns. In Google Ads, we've got different campaign types. We've got search, shopping, display, video. It's a huge platform, and there's just a lot going on in there. Okay. The first one. So what's the first action that you need to take? Um, I would say, especially if you're running search campaigns, I'll be sharing this in my own account. If you're running search campaigns, the first thing you need to know and fix are your search queries. Search queries really are the most important thing. When you're running search campaigns, you're obviously setting up keyword-based ad groups. So you do your keyword research, put together your ad groups and so on. But a lot of people don't understand that keywords and searches are different. They're not necessarily the same thing. A keyword is what you put into your Google Ads campaigns, and a search term is what people search with to find sort of your business or whatever products or services you're running. So we as someone running Google Ads campaigns, especially if you're running search campaigns, you really need to understand your search terms and improve them. So I'm sharing my account, as I mentioned, and I'm gonna show you this campaign, this search campaign that I'm running. And in there, you can see I've got different ad groups. But the search terms, especially the search terms report, is where I spend a lot of time managing my campaigns and even client campaigns. So to do that, you need to go to the keywords tab. And in the keywords tab, you're going to see negative keywords and search terms. Now, search terms, they show, based on obviously the metrics that you're looking at. So the default is that you're going to see the high volume ones at the top, as you can see, clicks right there. And if you scroll down, you can see how many searches you're looking at. So this is 2,919 searches for 30-day period. So this is like in the last 30 days. Now, what you will notice, especially when you're running campaigns, is that your keywords are going to be far less than your search terms. And that's common. So for example, if I go to search keywords and I scroll down, you're going to see I have 292 keywords. And those 292 keywords, if I go back into search terms, they've triggered 2,919. That's common. And that's because we're using match types. So we're using phrase match, we're using exact match, and sometimes we're using broad match. That just brings a lot of searches. So the reason why you need to go in here and achieve 100% search targeting is because you want to make sure you're only showing your ads to people who are relevant to your products or services and businesses. So if I look at this and I say, okay, people are searching for PPC management, Google Ads agency, Google Ads specialist, a lot of these are relevant for me and I've added them. Some are not added, but they relatively are relevant. I'm sure some of you have done this, and you keep scrolling down, and then if you find any that are not relevant, so say I come down here and I say, well, I think PPC services is not what I want, so I need to add this as a negative keyword. And so I'll select it, then I'll click add as negative keywords. Very easy. And when you do that, it adds it as a phrase match at the ad group level or at the campaign level if you want. Now, I would recommend you put it at the campaign level, especially if something not relevant for the whole campaign. Just add it to the campaign, because if you add it just to the ad group, what happens is it's likely to be triggered by another keyword, which doesn't solve the problem. It just makes it worse. So if you're happy with that, you just save it and then it blocks you completely. Another thing you can do is you can add your searches as a negative keyword list. So you can build a negative keyword list, and I think I've got one in there called account-wide list, but there's options to create a new negative keyword list right there. So you can save as a new list and apply negative keywords. The reason why you want to add it as a list is because over time, you will set up new campaigns, and it will save you a lot of time if you've got a negative keyword list, and you can then just go in and block those searches. So that will make it easy for you. You can imagine if you've got like 10 campaigns, trying to add the same keywords into different campaigns is not a good thing. So just create a negative keyword list, and when you come to your let me bring this. When you come to your tools and settings, you can check your negative keyword list right there. So in shared library, you can check it there and add any other ones you want in there, and then just manage them from there. I would recommend you do this. This is really important. But one mistake a lot of people make when adding negative keywords is, let me close that. So I've got these PPC services, for example, and say PPC is relevant because that's what I want to target, but I'm not really interested in the word services. So blocking it like this is not effective, because if I do that, it means other words which relate to services and other keywords and other words could still trigger it. So if someone searched for pay-per-click services, because I've blocked this exact match PPC services as I just showed you, pay-per-click services is still going to show it, and we don't want that word services. So the best thing to do, And this is the most effective way to add negative keywords, is to go into the negative keyword list and then just put it as click negative keywords, campaign, and then put it as services, broad match. No need to put it as phrase match or exact match. So just leave it as broad match and then save it. So any searches with the word services um, going to be blocked, not just that specific one. So all the different ones are going to be blocked, and that's really important. So I would recommend you really do it like this. And an even better way to do it is to go into your tools and settings and then go there and add it to the negative keyword list. That will save you time as you do that. So that's really an important part of blocking, searches that are not important. The whole idea behind this is to get your searches to 100% accuracy. And the reason I say that is because, for example, with my own campaigns, I spend about 5,000 a month, but I only look at them once or twice a month because my searches are really targeted. They're very targeted and my conversion rates are good. So you often won't have to do a lot of this as time goes on as you block it. This is one of the main reasons many people don't run effective ads, because they focus on keywords, which is not really the thing you should focus on. What you should focus on is your system. So that's really key and something important for you to look at. Now, the second thing that we need to look at to really improve your campaigns, as you know, things are really getting competitive on Google Ads and PPC in general. So a lot of businesses are coming on board. I've seen this. I mean, I've been doing this for over 12 years and so forth. And it's really getting competitive. So you need to look at your auction insights reports. What's really happening with auction insights? Now, the auction insights report, there's two places you can find it. You can find it under keywords right there, or if you wanted, you could go right there. So under ad groups. So if we click on auction insights reports, what we see here is that's your business and your competitors. Yeah. Now, one of the things you're going to notice when you look at this is some of them may not look relevant. And you may ask yourself, why are they coming up? For example, I look at google.com and I think, well, why is Google coming up? They obviously don't promote the services I promote. But what you have to think about is they are competitors in the sense that they are appearing for the same searches. So you need to do something about that. Now, some of them will obviously be direct competitors. So we will look in a section after this, we're going to look at a way to check out what they're doing and improve your campaigns based on the keywords and search terms that they're appearing for. But what I'm more interested in here are the metrics. For example, if we look at impression share basically is how many impressions am I getting for the keywords and searches that I have based on what is available. And I'm getting about 50%, Depom is getting 16% and so forth. So they're probably appearing much more often when my ads appear. Yeah. So this tells me, obviously, there's still room for improvement for myself based on the searches I'm targeting. Maybe I need to increase my budgets. Maybe I need to increase my bids. That's something else to look at. But that's key to know. But the most important, especially in very competitive areas, is your page rate. What Google did recently was they removed the position, average position metric. So it wasn't a great thing, but at least now we still have top of page rate and an absolute top of page rate. Now, basically, what these are with absolute top of page rate, we're talking about position one. How often are you coming up in position one? Now, if you look, I'm looking at it at the campaign level. You can look at it at ad group level if you want, but this will only show if you've got sufficient traffic volumes. So that's something to be aware of. But absolute top of page rate is how often you come up in position one. And I tend to come up 33% of the time. And top of page rate is somewhere between 2 and 4. A lot of uh, those positions, when you come up in 2 or 4, it's usually above the organic results. But sometimes, especially if it's an informational search, it may be below the organic results. But this is based on ads. Here, what we're focusing on is on ads. So if I look at this and I think, well, I'm in an industry where I really need to be really higher than 33%. How can I get my ads really up there? How can I improve my positions? 33% may not be great for me, so I need to do something about that. Obviously, look to see what others are doing. For example, AdTrain is coming out 44.81%, and I can do some analysis and try and see what they're doing, but they really are coming up at the top, especially when we come up together slightly higher than me. So I can take action to improve that. What actions can I take? And one of the first things that comes to mind is your bid strategy. What bid strategy are you using? Are you using manual? Are you using automated? And so forth. That's going to help you to improve this. And what you can do, if you decide you want to do that, you go into your campaign and you go to settings, and I'll show you what bid strategy I am appearing for, and then we can see what to change. Okay, so I'm using manual CPC. I've used this one for a long time. So I could say, well, you know what, that's difficult because it means I have to always keep monitoring and so forth. Maybe I need to change to an automated bid strategy. So in Google Ads, there's two bid strategy types. You've got automated and you've got manual. So if I go change bid strategy, it then gives me the option to pick one of the other ones. So if you see, manual CPC is the only one, which is a manual bid strategy, and you've got automated and you've got maximize clicks and so forth. Now, if I decide, you know what, I just really want to come up 100% in position one, the honest truth is you'll never get 100%. It's almost impossible, but you can get it to about 90% or something like that. The bid strategy that's going to help you is target impression share. And I'm sure maybe some of you have used this. And this one, it really helps you to target more of those impressions and get more of them. If you remember, I showed you I get 50%. So maybe if I want to increase that, whilst also increasing my positions, I could come here and say, he will ask me, where do you want your ads to appear? And I've got three options: anywhere on results page, which is anywhere on page one, top of results page, or absolute top of results page. So I could say I want absolute top of results page, and then say what percentage share to target. I could say you can add anything you want, but if you wanted 100%, maybe to really be aggressive, you can put that. This will really make a difference, and your ads will really come up at the top. But the mistake you don't want to make is you don't want to do that and not put a CPC bid limit, because if you don't and other advertisers are doing the same thing, you could really get into a very expensive exercise. So you could put a limit. Now, this bid strategy is not one that you're going to use at the beginning. It's one of those that you use later when you build your traffic and you understand your audiences and your average CPC. So I could say, well, maybe I don't want to spend more than £10 a click. Well, my industry is very competitive. Whatever it is for your industry, set it to whatever is comfortable for you, and then save that. And that's going to make a difference. Then the bid strategy is going to go into learning mode, and then you will see what it does. I mean, another thing you could do, if you're not comfortable changing it, is setting up an experiment. There's options to set up experiments in Google Ads. And you can do that and then see how it runs for you. Down here, you can set up experiments. That's something we can look at another time. But that's one way to be really aggressive. And I tend to find that that happens a lot for emergency businesses in emergency areas, or where it's really important psychologically to be number one. Now, if you're just starting, I'll say this, I would recommend starting with maximize clicks and try and get as much clicks for your budget. This will really bid to try and get as much clicks as possible. You can set a maximum CPC limit as well if you want, and then maybe say £1, whatever you've seen from your keyword research. That's going to be important. So just check that out and see how it works for you. That one is for when you're getting started. Then later you can change to a conversion type one, or target impression share if you really want to come up at the top. So that's another way to really improve your campaigns and see how things are going. The third way I would say you should really improve your campaigns, especially if you've been running them for a while, your search campaigns, is to use dynamic search ads. Now, with dynamic search ads, the difference between dynamic search ads and standard search ads is that with the dynamic, the system is the one that determines the searches your ads are going to come up for. So I'll show you in a minute. The difference is, if I go back into this campaign, you will notice I've got all these ad groups. So if I click on these ad groups, these are keyword-based ad groups. Now, in each campaign, I would recommend having one dynamic search ad, especially if it's likely to bring you searches that are that your keyword-based ad groups are not targeting. Because sometimes we don't think of all the different searches out there. So the system can help you with that. So I would say create a dynamic search ad. You can do that by going into your campaign and go ad groups, and then go create ad group, and then it will come up at some point. Or let me do this. Let me show you. I've got one actually here. Yes, right there. So that's a dynamic ad group. If you notice, let me look at it from the campaign level, just to make it easier. So if we go to campaign and we go DSA, this is a dynamic search ad group. It doesn't have any keywords. If you notice, it's just got negative keywords, and then it will have search terms when it starts running. So you don't add keywords in a dynamic search ad group. The system is the one that finds the searches for you to target based on the context of your website, which is something very important, because a lot of people set up Google Ads and they don't really focus on their landing pages and creating really good content. You know, it's not enough just to get traffic from Google and just send people to your website. Your landing pages need to be really effective. You know, you should have, especially on mobile, try to have everything above the fold and have as much content as possible. Not too much, but, you know, enough for your visitors and also for the system. Of course, there's organic SEO and all these other great things, but it also helps with the machine learning system, especially if you want to run dynamic search ads, because the system is going to scan your site, then it's going to look at synonyms and closely related searches, and then where it sees an opportunity to drive those, it's going to go after those searches. And I'll be honest with you, whenever I run dynamic search ads, a lot of times I tend to find them performing better than keyword-based ad groups, because the system, yeah, I mean, you have to put your input into it, but it tends to be a lot faster than you and I in choosing and updating search terms and negative keywords and so on. So you can use both standard ad groups and the dynamic search ones. And what I recommend to make it easy, I mean, you can set it up in here in your campaign, but one thing I would recommend is, if you go into recommendations, this is something I'm going to talk about later. If you go into recommendations, you are likely, if you've been running your ads for some time, let me go to the, yeah, all campaign level. If you've been running your ads for some time and your content on your site is great, you are likely to see a recommendation to create dynamic search ads. There, I've got one right there. And I don't just go and apply all. You shouldn't do that. You should go in and just check what the actual recommendations are. So I've got one, two, three recommendations for different campaigns. So if I say, okay, I want to view this and see what the recommendation is, it's recommending that I um, use this landing page, and this is the text that it's recommending. But I can change this if I want to anything that I want, just to make it more relevant. What I cannot change is the headline. That is dynamically created, and the display URL. It's right here. Then it gives me examples of searches that you may show on. So I can look at this and think, okay, account suspension, is that relevant? You know, people contact me for Google Ads suspensions and so forth. So if I find these relevant, I can just say apply. Okay, so sometimes you may find you've got 10 which are relevant, but one which is not. So you can just apply it and then take the one that's not and add it as a negative keyword, because you want the others, but there's probably just one that you don't want. So I would say, you know what, go for that. So something to test. But as I mentioned, don't just go in here and just apply it because it's recommended. You need to actually see what it's about and update it to whatever is key for your business. Now, the fourth, I would say, one of the things that you need to look at to improve your campaigns is your bid strategies. I spoke briefly about that. Bid strategy is something you need to update with time. You know, a lot of us start with one bid strategy. So we start, as I mentioned, you start with maximize clicks. It works well, you know, you're getting that traffic, you're getting those conversions, but you just leaving it like that. I would recommend that you review your bid strategy and see if there's any opportunities to improve things and even get more conversions and stuff. So what's the best way to do that? I mean, you can go in to your campaign as I showed you and go into settings and then update your bid strategy. That's fine, you know, and it will run, especially if the campaign is not doing well. Maybe just change it. But just be aware of one thing. If you make any change to a bid strategy is a big change. And when you do that, it goes into learning. So maybe some of you have run campaigns and you've noticed that when you change bid strategy, it's a very big change and it changes a lot of things. So if you change from manual CPC to maximize clicks, you probably need to give it a week or two to run those ads and see what you get. How long you run it before you determine if it's working or not really depends on your industry. But I tend to find that it's not so much time. It's really based on the volume of traffic that you're getting. That's something that you need to look at. So be aware of that. You know, some people, I see people who advertise who change their bid strategy. Then in 24 hours, things are not working out. They're pulling their hair and everything else. And then they change it again and again and so forth. That's not good. You need to give it some time to run and see how it's performing first before you make any more changes. Otherwise, the system will never learn. Now, an effective way to do that, as I mentioned earlier, is to run an experiment. Well, what you can do is you can set up a duplicate campaign of the one you have if you want, and then just change the bid strategy and then pause the old one and then just run it for some time. You may ask, will it have historic data? Yes, it has, based on the old campaign and stuff. But an even better way, I would think, is experiments. Google recently changed drafts and experiments are a lot easier than they were before. I think later we're going to go into depth in this, but experiments are down there. You can run an experiment. You could just go in there and run a custom experiment and say you can only run experiments for display and search. So you can't run for shopping and all these other platforms. And then you click continue and then give it a name and give it choose the base campaign, the one that you're comparing against. So you say Google Ads UK and then click continue. And then when you get to the changing bit, I'm going to end this. When you get to the changing bit of that experiment, just change the bid strategy as I showed you in the previous section. That will then run. So you can run it for however long you want. Very easy to set up. And when you've seen what you get from those clicks, conversions, and stuff, you can then either apply what you've learned in the experiment if it was good, or you can just discard it if it wasn't good. So experiment is good, but an easier way maybe is just duplicating the campaign, or just something like that, and running it and then seeing what it does. So that's something you should do. I'll quickly go over those bid strategies. So we've got, let's have a look. So if we go into settings, yeah, this is where our bid strategies are. I'm looking at a search campaign. It differs for different types of campaign types. And you just go in there and change it, and you've got your different bid strategies. Maximize clicks is to get as much clicks as possible. Maximize conversions to get as many conversions as possible. Don't run this one at the beginning because it sounds like a good one, but the system hasn't had enough time to learn. And, you need to have at least between 30 to 50 conversions in a month to set this one. And the good thing about this one is when you've got the data, you can also set a target cost per acquisition and say, well, maybe I want to pay a target CPO of £100, or it will recommend based on what I'm seeing here or something like that. So it's just really up to you, and you can learn like that. Then you got maximize conversion value if you want to focus on value, revenue, sales, and those kind of things. And you can set a target return on ad spend. So you could say, well, I want to get 300% return. So I guess that's like £3 for every pound that you spend. So you go 300%. But this one as well, you run after you've run your campaigns for a while, and then you save it and so forth. And target impression share is what I showed you earlier. And manual CPC is you updating those bids manually. Test these. Don't just run one and do that forever. I think it's important to test. You never know what you're going to learn when you do that. Right. So the fifth way to really improve your campaigns, and this one a lot of people ignore, I've touched on it just briefly before, is recommendations. I'm sure you've probably seen recommendations. This is where this is the Google Ads system saying, you know what, these are the ways you can improve your campaigns. Let me go to the all campaigns level so that we can see where we are. So yeah, recommendations used to be called opportunities. For those who've been running ads for a while, you probably know that. And one of the first things you notice when you get into recommendations is you've got an optimization score. So the optimization score is just how the Google ad system says, this is how we think how well optimized your account is. It's a good metric, but it's just an alert. It's not something you would totally base all your managing in Google Ads on, but it gives you insight into what's happening and how you can improve things. So the optimization score, try and get it to 100%, and always try and keep it high and close to that. Basically, when you go into recommendations, these are recommendations from the Google Ads system, the algorithm saying, you know what, if you use the display expansion, you could increase performance by 1.9%. So if I think that's great, I can just apply all, or I can view the recommendations as I showed you with the dynamic search and say, okay, what's this one saying? Should I apply it? Display expansion, probably not a great thing for a search campaign. If you want to do display, I would recommend that you use a separate display campaign for that. Now, if I like that, I can apply it. And if I apply it, you will see that whatever percentage was will increase the optimization score. But if I don't like it, I'll just remove it. So that's one. And then there's another, remove conflicting negative keywords, improve your responsive search ads. These are all recommendations from the system. What you will notice is that the ones with the most impact are listed at the top. So 1.5%, 1.3 descending. Can you see 0.8, 0.7 on how they're set to improve your ads? Saying add responsive search ads. If I like that, I can include it and so forth. What I'll say is, I've had a client who was going into this and he was just applying everything, and I just couldn't understand why things were suddenly in 1 week everything changed. But when I went in to change history, I recognized he thought that it always has to be at 100% at all times. That was a big mistake. He put keywords that were not relevant because the system was saying that. Some of the recommendations are good, but some are not relevant, and you just need to dismiss them. So if something is not relevant, just dismiss it. For example, I don't think this one is good for me, so I will go dismiss all and then give a reason. And you could say, I don't think this will improve my performance, and then dismiss it. So you can see the optimization score goes up to 94%. Should you do that? Yes, you should, because when you do that, it's important to either dismiss or apply things, because it also trains the system to send you better recommendations in the future. Some people ignore it because they think, well, it's just a waste of time. It's not. You're also training the system to send you better recommendations, and it just goes up there. I guess for guys like us who are Google partners, it's also a factor in our certification and so forth. But if that's not something important, you still should do it and go in there. If it's saying add responsive search ads, that looks like a good one. If you've got campaigns that don't have responsive search ads, go in and add them. As you probably know, expanded text ads are out, and now we're using responsive search ads. So you should really be updating it. And if you don't look here, you will sometimes miss some of these updates that are coming out, and your campaigns won't be as optimized as much as possible. What I would say, something to be aware of is, if you notice up here, we've got auto apply. Make sure that's not selected, because if it's selected, what happens is the system is just going to auto apply. If all these are selected, I think when it's selected, it shows in blue. Yeah, let's see. It changes right there. I never set this, even with client account, because it will just, apply everything automatically, and performance would just keep dropping. I've seen clients who've got this set and their campaigns are always just dropping, and they don't understand why. And if you wanted, though, you could save it. But this one, definitely don't set it to auto apply. I would recommend that you review these yourself and then see if they're working as they should. So yes, that's another way to improve your campaigns. And this is a place where you're going to spend some time. Now, another way to improve your campaigns, I would say the sixth way, and this one is very important. It's good because you can do it at the beginning, when you're starting with Google Ads, or you can do it as you're managing your campaigns as time goes on. It's checking out what competitors are actually doing. We looked at Auction Insights report, and that gives you an idea of who they are and where they're coming up and things like that. But I use a separate tool for this, and you won't have this in Google Ads. So you're able to see which keywords, ads, and stuff they're coming up for. And a tool that I use is SE ranking right here. There's some really good ones out there. You can check them out. But what this does is it gives you the actual searches and keywords that your competitors are coming up for. I think that's one of the most effective ways, especially when you're doing your research, and you're trying to look for keywords to add and searches to appear for. And you can use it for SEO. In fact, a lot of these tools are primarily set up for SEO, but they're used for PPC effectively as well. So I can add a domain. Let me just add mine and say, okay, add my site and the UK. So you can change this to any regions that you want, and update it to whatever you want. But it still shows you the UK is the primary one, the US, Netherlands, and so forth, and you can click on them. From a PPC, when I say PPC, it's not PPC as in all platforms. This is primarily Google Ads. So it shows you what searches and keywords your competitors are coming up for. So if we look at this one page, for example, this is mine. Um, it's 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 important also to know that it's not necessarily just the keywords that it's referring to, it's the actual searches, because the system scans the site and it scans, I guess, databases and so forth to see which actual searches your competitors are coming up for. So I can see some of the searches my site is coming up for. I can see that, well, some of these are not actually keywords in my account, but I do come up for some of them. Maybe in the past I did, and so forth. So you can do this with the competitor's website, and you can see things like how difficult it is, those keywords, the expenses, position, where they're coming up, position 1, 1, 4, and so forth, and the search volume, which is key, obviously, if you want to target that. You can also see, I guess, competition and the average cost per click and various things like the URL that's pointing and so forth. So these are some of the features. In the past, you could be able to see ads and so forth, but doesn't look like they sort of provide it at the moment. But this is a powerful tool, and one that, especially if you're starting, you should really go in and see what your competitors are doing. And once you've got this data, you can plug it into your Google Ads campaigns. You can set up new um, ad groups in your campaigns based on whatever you find here and target people like that. It's not a free tool. There's a cost obviously attached to it, but it's worth it, because some of these tools you won't get in platforms like Google Ads or Microsoft Ads and so on. You only get them from third-party sites, and you get an idea of how prominent they are throughout the year. But the honest truth is, it's not 100% accurate, and I can see it from what I tend to do regularly. Where I think it really comes into its own is really the search terms. It says keywords, but it's actually search terms. So I can really see that, well, okay, these are really good search terms. What it won't tell you, though, is how they're actually performing on those searches, which is, it's impossible. They wouldn't be able to provide conversion data, because that's personal to them. So you won't know if this search is converting or not. But I mean, if an advertiser is consistently coming up for specific searches and keywords, that's a good indication. That tells you, you know what, there's some value to it. So it's and this is the beauty of these tools. It's not a one-off exercise. It's something you should do regularly and just check what they are coming up for. What I would say, though, is do it for multiple advertisers. And sometimes if an advertiser stops and starts and so forth, you may not get any data in there. So that's something to be aware of. But it's got its drawbacks, but it's got its benefits. And it's a tool I really recommend. I mean, if the PPC has got nothing, organic almost always has something, and the organic also can tell you a lot. It can help you maybe even find specific keywords and stuff to add. So it tells you where they are ranking organically. This is my site and so forth. And you can just take some of these keywords and so many things. I mean, there's so many features here. Um, I don't use all of them, but it depends on the industry. Industries are different, and you can see how they're appearing. You can even see reviews and videos in the search results and stuff. So this one I definitely recommend. It's a very good tool. I think another one is Spyful or something like that. It's an industry one, and a lot of people do use it. But I use seranking.com. I've been using it for years, and I found it very effective in some of the stuff that I do. And so going back to Google Ads, now we're going to talk about I think that's the last way to really improve your campaigns. As I mentioned, there's many other ways, but these are some of the things that you can do to improve your campaign. One other way is budget. Sometimes we struggle with how much to spend. Um, should I increase my budget? Should I reduce it? When should I reduce it? And when should I increase it? Or what budget should I start with? Let me start with maybe what budget you should start with. And I don't mean just Google Ads as a whole, but even for specific campaigns. I work with a lot of small businesses, but I also work with a few large ones here and there with time and so forth. One thing that's consistent is that even a lot of large advertisers, I've got one at the moment, and when they started spending $500 a month. Today they're spending over 10,000. But the reason why is because they wanted to test. And that's where we all start. It's okay to start with a small budget and then increase it. Almost no one starts with thousands. In fact, if someone contacts me and they say, "Oh, I've got £10,000 to spend," I always just think, "Oh, really?" You know, you got to be careful with that. Not that you're going to waste your budget. Obviously, you need to set up campaigns effectively, but some things you learn over time, and you just tweak those campaigns. And there's no need to overspend and waste your budget. But at the same time, if you're going to set a budget, it shouldn't be so low that it's going to take you 3, 4 months to see what's actually happening, because that's going to frustrate you. And if you're like me, you probably don't have the patience to really see what's going on. So what you need to do is set something that is likely to bring you significant traffic that you can learn from in 30 days or less. If you can learn in 14 days, that's great. And I tend to find for many advertisers, £400, $500 to start with is okay. Even for industries where it's more competitive and they're spending £6 a click and so forth. I mean, I spend £7.23 on average for my search, but if I can get 100 clicks, I can really see where my searches are coming from, my audiences, and I can go into Google Analytics and see how engaged people are, bounce rates, engagement, and so forth. Now, in Google Analytics, you probably have seen this that has come out. Universal Analytics is going away. So I believe things like bounce rate and engagement are all going out. But you still have some good metrics in GA4. And you need to, especially at the beginning, when you're starting, you need to really see how engaged people are. If your bounce rates are like 90%, and it's a full website and not just a landing page, you need to do something about that, because you could waste your budget on searches that don't do well. For example, okay, I'm digressing here, but for example, for me, if a search term has 10 clicks, I'm not, and it's got 100% bounce rate, I'm not going to wait until it gets 100 clicks for me to see if it works or not. It's very likely from 10 clicks, 100% bounce rate. That's not very good. Something has to change. Something has to be updated. And as I mentioned, it's not enough just to get the traffic. You also need to make sure your landing pages are great and they're working very well for you. So budget. Yes, start with the small one, but increase it. And when you get to that point, which takes me back to the search terms, when you really get to 100% um, search term accuracy, it's possible to almost get to 100% search term accuracy. And that's what everyone is aiming for. When you get there, your campaigns are really going to be working well. And if you're spending 1,000 a month, and you've almost got to 100%, and your conversion rate is decent, your bounce rates are around 40%, well, maybe even 60%, but your conversion rates are good, and you're getting the business and the performance that you require, then there is no reason why you should not increase it by 25%, 50%, and so forth. Don't just get stuck with one budget and think that's all you're going to spend forever. There are many people who do that and they never really see. And the problem with that is, honestly, Google Ads is getting more expensive, and I see it. I've seen it in automotive industries I work with. I see it with tradesmen. I see it with e-commerce. You know, one time e-commerce we were paying 1p per click. I had a client who was paying 1p per click on average for I think it was candle, custom candles or something. And those days are well behind us. Those days are gone. So you really have to be more competitive, and increasing budgets is important. If you don't, competitors are going to do that, and it's going to be hard for you to catch up when they've really built up. Because when you increase budget, you can then also start working on your bid strategy, as I mentioned earlier. And you can also work on remarketing, because you need remarketing to bring people back. You know, don't just lose people. And you need to set a budget for that as well. So even if you're not increasing it for your search campaign and so forth, at least have um, a remarketing campaign, because most people who come to your website are going to browse, and they're going to check you out, maybe even call you, maybe not, but most won't, and they're just going to leave, and they're going to go forever. So what you want to do is you want to bring them back, and the remarketing is one way to do that. That's a separate campaign type for you to set up in display or in search. And what I find with remarketing, set a right budget for it. I set like £5 a day, and that's sufficient. And just remind people, and the system puts the most valuable ones, the ones who are engaged, into those audiences and brings them back. And you can just retarget those people with banners, image ads, and text ads, and all these things. And when you do that, you will start to see searches for your brand name go up, and you will start to see performance improve for your search, the initial search campaign, and everything else improve. So you need to do that. So increasing budgets is important, especially if you're going to set up a separate remarketing campaign, and also if you want to get more clicks and more traffic. One of the things you will notice, the question is, how much should you really increase it by? There's a number of ways you can find out, and you can do this in Google Ads. For example, I've got this campaign, and there's a budget simulator actually. Yeah, and if it's highlighted like that, it means, yeah, they scope to improve it. So if I click on that, it tells me how much, you know, I've set it at £10 per day. But then it tells me if I increase it to £32.57, I could get 217 clicks, maybe zero conversion. But these are just estimates. It will probably never be really like this. Or you can set a specific amount you want. Um, this will really help you to see, how much to increase it by, and it's fine. Budget simulator is okay, and it's one I use. Another way which I find really effective is to use comparative metrics. I've already selected them here, but I'll show you what comparative metrics are. At the campaign level, if you go to columns and go modify columns, you can see the columns for your report dashboard. And then you've got all these different things that you can add. We have got Google Analytics bounce rate if you wanted to see. But the competitive metrics shows you where you really stand in terms of where you're coming up for your campaign. So I've selected these. These three are important. Search impression share is the number of impressions you're getting. Lost impression share, search lost impression share, is the impressions you're losing because of your ad rank. And then search lost impression share is the impressions you're losing because of your budget. So we select those and then we apply them. If you haven't applied them already, then let me look for them. And if I come here, there they are in my dashboard. So if you remember, I showed you in Auction Insights that I've got about 50% for that campaign, the campaign I show you. So it comes up here again and it shows you. But I'm losing 48% of impressions because of ad rank. It's a competitive field. And imagine we're spending £7.23. So I could look at this and think, well, I want more impressions. So I need to increase my bid strategy. Maybe I need to go for target impression share. But at the same time, if I'm going to do that, I probably need to also increase budget slightly. The good thing is I've set my budget at £450 a day, but I'm not losing a lot of impressions because of budget. I'm only losing 0.8%, which is okay, you know. So there isn't really much scope to improve, but there is scope to improve based on my ad rank. So I could say, well, let me use the target impression share budget that we're talking about and really get aggressive. Yes, my average cost per click is going to go up, but I'm willing to spend more, and I'm really willing to see performance improve in terms of my impression share. So you can change to that, and that's one of the things to look at. Then you've got this campaign, PPC University. I'm losing budget 18%. So I could say, well, I want more impressions because of budget. So I could increase it by 20% or whatever, and then see what it does. But remember, this always changes and fluctuates. I'm losing impressions 62%, 63% based on rank. So I could, if I wanted, I could increase it. So these are some of the things that you can look at. My Google Ads suspension campaign, yeah, this one I really come up at the top. I'm really getting 99% of impressions, and I'm not really losing anything. So these are some of the metrics to really look at. I think we've covered most of the ground, you know, the points that will really help you improve your impressions and so forth. I thank you for listening. Any questions, please, I'll give a few minutes for questions. If you can pop some in there, and then we can answer those and see, um, you know, if it can help you improve your campaigns. There's so many ways to improve Google Ads campaigns, you know, and I'm always finding new ways based on how Google itself is improving. So really, I thank you all for listening. It's been great. You know, reach out to us if you've got any questions. What we're going to do is we're going to send you this recording. Yes, we were recording it. We're going to send this recording and you're going to get it via email. If you've got any questions, reach out to us. We're always happy to help. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and it has truly been a pleasure. Thank you.